the goal ultimately is to, inspire other leaders and other lifesavers to empower others as well. And so I'm really looking to create a movement, an impact, and something that goes beyond me is what I want my legacy to be.
Hey, Alex, welcome to Business Club.
Thanks for having me. Thanks for having me.
Pleasure. And what we do here generally is try to identify small businesses and try to get into the depth of their business and understand a little bit detail about what you do, how you go about doing it, and then help them get their message out to the masses. That's what we're trying to do. So just be as open and as frank as you can be with your business. This way, you're going to build an authority on your subject. So I'm looking forward to our conversation.
Me too. Me too. Thanks for having me.
Pleasure. And so, yeah, tell me a little bit background about yourself. First, let's just start with you. Your personal journey. Where were you born, raised, and what made you choose the profession that you are in, and what do you do currently? And then we'll dig a little bit deep into what your business is all about.
Okay, yeah. So born and raised in Charlotte, North Carolina. As far as what got me on the journey of More Life CPR, I've always wanted to help people. I've always wanted to be my own boss. So I went to CPCC originally for photography, and then I changed it to business. But then I decided to just finish my gen ed classes and take some Spanish classes and whatnot. And after that, I was just still in the process of figuring things out and whatnot, doing a lot of research. And then I stumbled upon teaching first aid and CPR.
Right.
And I started doing more research. I realized that in my opinion, it wasn't as easy as it should be for the regular everyday person to just go and get CPR certified.
Yeah.
And so started doing even more research, started to, figure out what I needed to do in order to, become an instructor and stuff. So I, aligned with the training center, did my research on, finding out the best center to align with, did my tests, studied a lot and whatnot, and then got my certifications.
Awesome. So tell me a little bit you getting certified. You did your degree at CPCC, or were you training at CPCC?
So I was bouncing all over the place, to be honest, at CPCC. So it was photography, and then I changed it to business, and then I just wanted to, get my gen ed classes out of the way and whatnot.
Okay.
So it's not. I don't think I even actually, to be quite frank, finished with any associates at CPCC. I think that's because so after that, I went to Lima, Peru for 2.5 months and stuff, and applied my Spanish and whatnot.
Nice.
So I felt like I got enough out of like what I took in the business classes and what I learned in Spanish and whatnot. And so then after that, that was when, after I got back, pretty recently after I'd gotten back, I had stumbled upon like the teaching first aid and CPR and stuff.
Very good. So whenever I meet you, especially in Business Club, I see you talk about a movement.
A movement of lifesavers.
Movement of lifesavers. Can you explain that a little bit?
Yeah. So the goal is really to create something beyond me. Obviously it's my business and stuff.
Amazing.
And I'm trying to grow that. But the goal ultimately is to, inspire other leaders and other lifesavers to empower others as well. And so I'm really looking to create a movement, an impact, and something that goes beyond me is what I want my legacy to be.
And how old are you?
23.
23, and you want to create a movement of lifesavers.
Yes.
Amazing.
Thank you.
Very inspiring. I mean, every time I meet you, you're so full of life. No reason, no wonder you have the name More Life CPR. Awesome. Can you just walk us through some of the services that you offer through More Life CPR? The reason why I'm asking all of these things is I want you to inspire others who might be on a similar boat, do not know what to do, and then you want them to take up. So just make sure that your answers that you're giving are inspiring for others to follow.
Okay.
So it is for somebody like me, when I was 23, I did not have exposure to things like this. So it would have been great if I had someone like you who've been there, done that, to guide me through. So yeah, go ahead and talk a little bit about More Life CPR.
Okay, so the core services that More Life CPR offers is going to be, the first one is going to be basic life support. So that's going to be anyone who has patients. So whether it's like nurses or dentists or
Right.
chiropractors, for example. So that one is basic life support. That's geared towards those, in the healthcare field. And then there's the CPR AED. AED stands for Automated External Defibrillator. That's that device that delivers the shock. And then I also teach first aid as well. So the CPR/AED and first aid, that's going to be geared towards more of your typical everyday lay person, whether it's parents, teachers, those with like guests or
Right,
something
right.
like that. And then also to have a partnership with like a distributor, and we'll sell AEDs.
Great. So those are you laid down about 3 or 4 services,
Yes.
correct?
And then the Spanish classes as well, these are very limited availability because I've hired like a translator and stuff, like an instructor, interpreter. So it's pretty much contingent upon her availability. So that one's very much like still in its earlier phases. Like we have taught some classes and
Right.
stuff, but it is very much contingent upon her availability.
Okay.
So that is very much a very small percentage of revenue overall compared to the others just mentioned.
Okay. So the 3 to 4 services that you mentioned, they how did you arrive at just giving? Can somebody who takes up, say, they form a company like yours, can they expand beyond that, or is just limited to those?
You can, for example, if you become like a paramedic, then you can get your credentials and teach advanced life support, and that's more of like administering drugs, and that's more of like
Okay.
a higher level than the basic life support. So
Right.
it's more of that next level. So that's an avenue one could take. The other avenues, there are like seminars and stuff too. So that's another thing too that I've just been getting into because I've been getting some calls for that.
Sure.
So like a few weeks ago, I did like a seminar on seizures and fainting and allergic reactions and some CPR and stuff like that.
Cool.
So that was really fun.
So let's just go a little bit deeper into the services that you provide. What would it cost someone, say, if you were to offer those services to, say, someone who's in trouble, or if you're training, for example, what would that training cost?
So it's per person. So per person, it's anywhere from, and it depends on if it's the basic life support, if it's the CPR AED, or if it's the first aid CPR AED. It also depends on if they're doing just adult,
just give me
or if they're
examples
doing
of
adult,
both.
children, and infant. So for BLS, it's going to be anywhere from $69 to $79 approximately.
Per hour?
Just for like the class itself, like per person.
Okay.
And then I'll do groups or individuals. And then with the first aid CPR AED, that's between $89 to $99. And then with the Spanish classes, that one is going to be $129. Now they also have the option to do like the blended, which is where they'll do an online portion and then an in-person skills check. And then those are a bit cheaper. So for BLS, that'll be $49. For the first aid CPR AED, that will be $69. And then we don't have skills checks for the Spanish classes.
Okay.
So there are a lot of different price ranges and stuff. And this also goes into like the tailoring of the classes depending on who the individual is or the group.
Okay. And do you have team members working for you other than the Spanish lady?
Not right now. No.
Okay.
The goal eventually will be to, once I can really hone in, my marketing and, sales process and stuff, to be able to hire someone to be more on the front end, and then I'll be able to deliver more on the back end, and then eventually I'll hire someone on the back end. So it's kind of that like yin and yang, where I have, someone who's helping with, acquiring customers, and then someone who's helping fulfilling with those customers.
Got it. And what's the market looking like, especially in the Charlotte area? And do you find competition of people who are for the services that you offer?
There is definitely some competition and stuff like that. I would say from both like the macro to the micro. Like for example, I do compete with Cintas. They have, I think it's like 44,000 employees. They're in all 50 states. But also it's, I do technically compete with the, mom who's a nurse that also will like
do CPR
do
training.
CPR on the side like once a year or something like that. So there's a lot of different levels to the competition and stuff, but that's why, I've been trying to work on like diversifying my core services and whatnot, and as well as like the ways I'm acquiring customers
Got
and
it.
stuff. Um,
So, walk me through the step by step process of how you would get into a business like this. Let's say if I'm a novice and I have no idea about what a how what a CPR trainer can be. Okay, and if I want to become one and I want to set up my own business, what steps would they go through, and how long will it take?
the first step would be to find a training center. Some training centers are local, other training centers are
Can you
like
name some?
national. Um, so a training center that's local, for example, is Innovative Solutions.
Yeah.
I called them, talked to a lady. Long story short, it didn't work out with aligning, but that's an example of like a local training center. My training center is actually in California, and so it was all done, digitally and stuff. My
Right.
monitoring, all my classes and whatnot. I still had to like have the mannequins in practice and stuff, but they're just in another state. So I would recommend. I mean, I think I'm biased, but going through more of like a national training center and stuff that has like a broad market reach. So the first thing you do is find your training center. You would purchase some courses through the American Heart Association. You'd have to pass those courses, and then you're going to have to get your monitoring done from the training center
How long does
coordinator.
it take?
Anywhere from 3 to 5 weeks or so. I think it depends
Okay.
on how long one's able to like take in the information and then apply that and to their skills tests and so on.
And what is the cost of such training?
For like the training and alignment, or to like get started and to be
Both.
able to teach. So for like the training and alignment, between 5 to 600, I believe I spent. And then as far as like my initial mannequins and stuff, like the bare bones, be able to teach at most like 4 or 5 people, that was around 1,300 or so. So I think it was a little under 2,000 that I spent initially to be able to like be in business. and
Okay,
whatnot.
that's $2,000 to start a business. That's amazing.
Yeah.
It's a low cost business that you
Yep.
can be where you're dependent on yourself to
Most
go out
definitely.
there.
Yep.
Okay.
And so then after that, as far as a person who wants to, become an instructor, it's up to you. Because you can have the greatest class in the world, you can have the most, passionate teaching and stuff like that. But if no one knows you exist, no one is
Exactly.
gonna, pay you money and stuff.
That
So,
leads to my next question. You've gone through this training, you've bought the equipments, you went through the whole rigor, you passed the test. Now you're on your own, and now over the next 6 months, 1 year, you're starting to test the waters. What challenges do you face as a small business owner? Now you're no longer an employee, or you're on your own. Nobody's there to feed you. You have to go out there and get the business. What challenges did you face, and are you still facing?
so the challenges early on were, I mean, it was really simple stuff early on. Like, what am I going to charge for the classes?
Pricing.
Pricing, um, policy as well. Like that one.
The waivers and all of that stuff.
Yep. So those were some of the earliest challenges. Even like branding and stuff, like coming up with a name that didn't sound cheesy. Get up with like a website and stuff that people could actually like book and stuff. And because like in the early days, that was when I had like absolutely like no sales process because I had no sales. So it was really like building out that sales funnel from, pretty much from scratch. So like the earliest challenges were, policy, were pricing, and then the marketing itself too. I think it's self-evident, like a lot of the no's and stuff, because when your business, that's your baby, you're passionate about it, you're trying. Like
Right.
it's easy to think like, who wouldn't want this service? Everyone
Right.
can use this service.
Yeah.
But then quickly one gets humbled in realizing that just because you see the value in something doesn't mean everyone
other
else
person sees-
does.
yeah.
And then even if they do see the value in it, they may not see the value in it as much as you see the value in
Yeah.
it. So it's, finding those, audiences that really see the value in services and stuff. The other early challenges were, just dealing with a lot of no's and stuff like that. But quickly I began to develop thick skin because I began to not see no's as like rejections, but rather redirections to the yeses. And even just like a lot of no's, I think, aren't really no's as much as they can be no for now.
Yeah,
Because
yeah, no
saying
for.
no as an absolute, like
Yeah.
forever and always, it's quite a statement.
Yep. So I always say this, especially whenever we meet new people. No means new opportunity.
I like that.
Yeah. So every no leads you to a new opportunity. You never know what's in store. So great. So what milestones or achievements are you most proud of since starting More Life CPR?
The seminar one really opened my eyes to like a new way of like
New
empowering
stream of, okay.
people with like knowledge and stuff like that, and that was over 100 people, so that was really cool. Another one I'd say is securing like big businesses like Eli Lilly and Honeywell and stuff like that. So being able to have those like large corporate clients,
That's
those have
amazing.
been some good achievements as well. Now, truth be told, those were from referrals and stuff, but they are still clients of mine nonetheless. So those have been some of the achievements. And honestly, another achievement I'd say is just still being in business.
Yeah,
You
yeah,
know, like being
absolutely.
able to still like
Oh, you're young, you started, and
mhm,
now you're able to wade through and still being
yeah,
profitable.
yes,
It's
and
pretty
being
good.
profitable too. Yeah,
Yeah,
that was
that's awesome. So I know you're also taking some courses or making some preparations to become an EMT,
yes.
and you're also running this business. And I know you have another gig that's happening. So how do you balance all of these things? You know, you're just 23, and you have a for someone like you to balance your so many activities during the day, it takes a lot of courage and a lot of determination. So how do you find that, and how do you go about doing it?
I would say that the prepping to become an EMT does help with like increasing my knowledge with like teaching and stuff like that. It gives me that like deeper why. I do feel like that conviction to really lead from the front, practice what I preach, implement what I teach, and stuff like that. So it's a big like motivator to stay on the track. It can be a lot at times, and I do sometimes struggle with remaining focused and stuff. I call it shiny object syndrome, where it's like I'm doing something, I'm like, oh, but if I were to just implement this and then start doing this, and then it's just like,
Yeah.
then I'll sometimes spread myself too thin. So something I've been trying to work on is really like focusing on those core aspects and then like building from there rather than, oh, I'm gonna do this, I'm gonna do this, I'm gonna do this.
Yeah, no, makes sense. Now let's talk a little bit about industry trends. Can you talk a little bit about where this industry is leading? I know a lot of people in the US, especially in the US, are having issues with their health. Most of them, diabetes is a kind of a pandemic, with heart issues coming in. So, where do you see the trend going, and how do you see yourself positioning to cater to that trend?
Good questions. Good questions. I definitely see it as a growing industry. Sadly, because heart disease is one of the leading killers of Americans, but also because of prominent people like Damar Hamlin or I think his name was Bronny James, who experienced medical emergencies with a lot of people watching, and I think that stuff like this, sadly, like brings to light that it doesn't matter really who you are or your background or social status or whatever. Like we are all humans and we are all, susceptible to bad things happening to us.
Right.
So I think more and more people are becoming aware of the importance of empowering themselves with life-saving knowledge and training.
Awesome. You mentioned about AED. So with modern ADs coming to picture, what do you see your role in that, and how do you see that those mechanisms, instruments playing a role in your business?
So I definitely see them as like a beneficial add-on for sure. They're becoming, the technology's getting better. They're becoming more readily available. So subsequently, they're becoming more affordable. 20, 30 years ago, these technologies were definitely not as common as they are now. So I definitely think like the AED units are a growing part of the industry as well as people's, desire to, learn how to save a life and stuff.
Right. Okay, let's talk a little bit about community. You mentioned about creating a movement of lifesavers, which is great. And can you share some experience of how your training has made a significant difference to the community as such?
So I'd say with the community stuff, I'll do table setups and whatnot,
Mm.
and so that'll be at like events and stuff. And it's really cool to, because I'll bring the mannequins, people can like try them for free. Like if you see me at a table setup, you can learn within like a couple minutes how to, you know, do the chest
Yeah,
compressions and stuff, or how to, save a baby from like choking and stuff like that. So, and that's like completely free. And even if no one signs up for the class, like I'm just happy to
yeah,
do
you're
that
sharing the
because.
knowledge.
And
Yeah.
so that's one of the ways that I feel like I'm impacting the community and stuff, really, that like boots on the ground
Is
thing.
there any particular story that you want to share with the audience about, um, let's say, you saved someone's life or some emergency situation?
I'm still waiting to hear like a call or something like that, or some student who's retaking a class to say, I used the skills I learned. But just honestly, I haven't had that yet. That doesn't
That's
mean that
okay.
that's
Yeah.
not happened. Maybe
Right.
they just didn't reach out about it and stuff. I do feel like at least like one or two students have implemented at least something they've learned, whether it's, if someone's choking, or, how to administer an EpiPen or something. Like I feel like the students have used at least something, but as far as like what specifically, I'm not sure yet.
Got it. And you talked about getting this to the masses. What steps are you taking from your perspective to help this message reach out to them? I know you talked about seminars. Are there anything else that you're doing?
So seminars, like table setups at like community events and whatnot. The other thing too is I'm going to start like some awareness campaigns and stuff with like signs and whatnot. Um, and also to just trying to do more like B2C, like going to more like individuals and stuff, and then even like I'm looking to get into like neighborhoods and stuff,
Very
and
nice.
make that like part of like some type of like neighborhood program or
Hmm.
safety program or something, to really like be in like the roots of the community and stuff like that.
Like getting in touch with the HOAs.
Yeah, getting in touch with the HOAs, maybe every like 6 to 12 months, they just send out an email or something, and whoever wants to take a class or something like that.
Oh, that's cool. Very cool. Great idea.
Thank you, thank you.
So, what are some of the lessons learned and advice that you would give to young aspirants who want to take a career path such as yours?
I would say that, like, yes, I am teaching, first aid, CPR, AED, and BLS. Like, that is, the service I exchange for money. But a lot of the time, like, it's not that.
It's beyond.
It's beyond that. It is, acquiring customers. It's, nurturing those leads. It's following up. And even after the class, it's stuff on the back end, like retaining those customers and stuff like that.
Those are real life lessons. Yeah.
Yeah, and so I would say that it's being another lesson I've learned is being comfortable and like satisfied with doing the boring stuff. Like the boring stuff where no one is watching, it's not instantly gratifying. Sometimes you don't even know if it will pay off, but
Yeah.
you're just,
You're continuing to do what you're doing. Yeah.
continue to do what you're doing. Yeah. And so I would say that um I mean, it's cliche, but just being disciplined, not motivated, but disciplined. Because
Yeah.
like motivation can come and go,
Yeah.
just like the wind or whatever. But like discipline, if one can really stick to it day in, day out, do the boring stuff that, isn't the sexy stuff you see online, but is, just a bunch of boring stuff on the back end. In my opinion, that's really how you become successful. So that's a big lesson that I've learned, but I'm also trying to not have to relearn.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, makes sense. And I think learning is a continuous process. And business probably is the best thing to happen to you. It takes you fast forward quite many years in a very less amount of time. So
Yes.
cool. So, what are your goals for More Life CPR in 2025 and beyond? By the way, Happy New Year in advance,
Oh yeah, Happy New Year in
and
advance.
Merry Christmas too. Yeah. So, what's your goal for 2025 and beyond?
So the goal for 2025 specifically will be to introduce active violent emergency response training, so active shooter training. The goal will also be to hire, kind of like we were talking about earlier, someone both on the front end and the back end. So
Right, to
those are
support
like,
you. Okay.
yep. So those are like 2025 goals, more or less. Beyond that, though, the goal is to eventually, in the next couple of years, have an actual physical location and stuff like that, and that will be where a lot of different type of life-saving classes are taught. So, of course, the current ones I have, and then the one next year, the active violent emergency response training. But
Right.
then even I'll be getting into like dog and cat first aid and CPR and
That's
whatnot.
amazing. Yeah.
Yes, you can do CPR on
Wow.
a dog and a cat. So that's going to be something as well. And then
It's going to be a huge market.
most definitely, yeah. Just based on my research, there's a lot of like demand for that, but very little like people like fulfilling that demand. So the goal is to eventually have like a physical location, but also to still be doing on-site training and stuff as well. And having, once I become an EMT, some of my fellow EMTs and stuff will be like working with More Life CPR as well. So the goal is to have, physical location, lots of different types of classes taught at that location, but also at other locations and whatnot. And really, as well, something that excites me is like community events I want to start being able to do, where, whether you're like a past student or even just someone who, might be interested, but you haven't taken a class yet, having like, say, like a, summer party or something. And, it's like a community event, and, people get to, learn about More Life CPR, learn about some, free life-saving knowledge and stuff, and really just be able to create that community and create that movement of life savers.
Awesome. I know you talked about doing your EMT in 2025, being an EMT, and then you have this business and you have this pretty ambitious goals. How do you plan to balance it out?
So to balance it out, that's where the like the delegating will come in and stuff. So ideally, once I've really like refined, my like cold outreach, like that one, the B2B, so going to different businesses and stuff, but also like the follow-up process with that.
Right.
Like once that's really refined, once, the like the table setups and the follow-up processes with that are really refined and stuff. Someone I'm gonna hire for that, and then also on the back end too, which I think will be easier because there's already like the class structure and stuff there that's been pretty much like hammered down. So how I'll balance that out will be to pretty much delegate. I'll still obviously be running the business and stuff, but it will be more on like the back end, only for a season. Because I'll be an EMT for at least 6 to 12 months or so. But the main reason is so I can really, get some experiences under my belt to, practice what I preach, implement what I teach and stuff. But that's being the EMT thing is definitely not as much a long-term goal as the More Life CPR goals.
Okay. I should have asked, what is an EMT?
Emergency medical technician.
Okay.
So, whether someone gets super injured or whatever, we're the first
I know it.
ones
I just
coming there. Okay, sorry about that.
Okay, got it. I was just asking because the audience might not be
Good question.
knowing what EMT is all about. Okay, if you could envision the future of More Life CPR in 5 years, where do you see yourself? In 10 years, where do you see yourself? 20 years, where do you see yourself?
So in 5 years, I will still definitely like be involved in the business and whatnot. I'll be ideally having like fellow employees and stuff where we'll definitely have scaled, but it won't be to the point where all my hair is falling out and I'm running all over the place at 1,000
So you'll have
miles
a
per hour.
balanced growth.
Yeah, a balanced growth. Definitely a team.
Yeah.
So that's more of like the 5-year goal will be an established team. The 10-year goal will be definitely in other markets. So definitely in markets like Atlanta for sure. I don't know if I want to expand more north or more like south, but definitely in other markets as well. And the goal is to once I've really, refine my full, sales processes and, customer acquisition strategies, all that, then I'm going to, duplicate that and be able to, delegate that to others here. But then
Right.
once that's really been refined in like the Charlotte market, then the goal is to, duplicate a lot of, what's been working and what we figured out and stuff, and then replicate that in other markets and really
Awesome.
create like a strong brand all across the East Coast.
So I would think maybe franchising or even licensing your core business to other practitioners out there to expand your reach.
Something like that, yeah,
Okay,
for
cool.
sure.
Very cool.
And then in 20 years, I can't even that. In 20 years, I don't even know. In 20 years, hopefully everyone in the country is certified by then.
Yeah. It's a lofty goal. And why not have a one, right?
Why not?
Yeah. All right. So, if there is one thing that you want every listener to take away from our conversation and the importance of CPR, what would that be?
Like in the importance of CPR training or
Yeah,
running a
training.
business, or
CPR and first aid training.
one takeaway I want everyone to have. I would say don't wait until it's too late. A lot of people, I think, when they see something terrible happen and they're unprepared, they're like, oh, it would actually probably be good if I knew what to do there. So rather than in the middle of something terrible happening, I think people should be more like proactive with, learning life-saving skills and whatnot, and not being as like reactionary to that.
Awesome. So, before we get to the rapid fire, I have to ask you this. If people are interested in getting associated with you in your movement per se, what would they need to do and how can they sign up?
Yeah, so you can go to morelifecpr.com. There also is an Instagram page, morelifecpr_official. And then on Facebook, it's More Life CPR as well. So to sign up, you can just go to the website, fill out a contact form and stuff, and then we'll reach out with the registration link.
Cool. Terrific. So now let's just get into some interesting rapid fire questions. Even though the question says rapid fire, you really can take time to respond. But it's going to be, and shorter the better, but it's up to you. So what's the most rewarding part of teaching CPR?
When people get that aha, like, oh, that's how you, okay. Like that to me is very satisfying.
Very nice. One word to describe More Life CPR.
Impactful.
Very nice. Okay. Coffee or tea before a class?
Coffee.
Coffee. What's common myth about CPR that you want to bust?
I would say Good Samaritan laws. A lot of people think that they can get in a lot of legal trouble if they see someone collapse and they start doing CPR. Good Samaritan laws are in all 50 states, and they provide bystanders with full legal protection and civil immunity if they were to act. So, whether you're at the grocery store, the airport, restaurant, whatever, if you, see someone, collapse and they're having, sudden cardiac arrest, like Good Samaritan laws mean that any regular typical layperson, average
Can
Joe,
do it.
whatever, can do it. And even if you break their ribs, you break their sternum,
They're still
even
safe
if they
because
die,
of the-
you are still safe and
Covered.
have legal protection. So that's one thing that I think a lot of people don't realize, but they should know.
Very good. So your go-to motivational quote. Do you have a motivational quote that you like?
Pleasure in the job puts perfection in the work. Aristotle.
Pleasure in the job puts perfection in the work. Amazing. Aristotle.
Yes.
Okay. Who's had the biggest influence on your career?
So it's someone who I listen to online. He owns a couple pretty successful businesses and stuff. His name is Alex Hermosi.
Oh yeah.
I get a lot
cold
of
email. He's a cold email marketing guru.
yeah. He's got a lot of good stuff. He so much wisdom, so much knowledge. So I'll listen to a lot of his content, and that definitely like inspires me in a lot of ways.
Awesome. Alex Hormozy, shout out to you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I like his name too.
Yeah. Right. So what's your favorite type of class to teach? Basic CPR or BLS or first aid?
I would say all of them. All of them I like equally. Yeah.
Cool. If you were not in the life-saving field, what would you be doing?
I'd probably be working with kids. Since I was like 16 or so, I've been, working and volunteering with kids, whether it's at like a Taekwondo camp or like a CrossFit camp or in like a like gym setup or whatever. So probably working with kids. I find them really interesting and fascinating, and I feel like I can learn a lot about like myself and even adults and just human nature in general the more I'm around and working with kids.
Cool. Any book you recommend?
I'd say probably from Alex Hermosi's $100 million leads,
Hmm.
or maybe $100 million offers and stuff. Because these are books where like he structures them in a way where you can like implement what you've learned like right away. Like for example, like it'll be a chapter on like cold outreach, or it'll be a chapter on like creating like scarcity and urgency and stuff, and then you can just turn right back around and then in your own equivalent apply that to your business.
Cool. What's one thing people generally tend to forget to do when they're in an emergency?
I would say remaining calm. It seems super simple, but just the more calm a person is and the less panic, the more like rational they're able
Yeah.
to be, the better decision making they can do and stuff.
Makes a lot of sense. So that goes in line with doing meditation every day, which helps you make calm, be calm.
And I've been trying to get into that more, staying grounded and whatnot.
Yeah,
Being
staying calm. What's your favorite spot in Charlotte?
It's called Camp North End. They've got like a lot of cool little places to eat, cool stores. Have like a lot of creative, artistic stuff as well.
Cool. So you're 23,
Yes.
and you had you have such clear direction for your career and things like that. But if I were to ask a fun fact about yourself, one fun fact, what would that be that people don't know about?
I would say I volunteered in Lima, Peru for 2.5 months and was fully culturally immersed and stuff like that. So that's something that I'd say is like a fact about myself that had an impact about me, but unless I mention it, isn't something that most people be like, oh, you probably did that.
Okay, cool. So if you were to train one person, and if you had the choice of picking up that one person in the world, who would that be to train CPR?
I would say, it sounds cheesy, but anyone who wants to, because that one person could, know someone who knows 100,000 people, or that one person themselves.
Maybe Alex Hormozy himself.
Yeah, or maybe Alex Hormozy. Yeah, I'd say actually probably Alex Hormozy, just to be able to give back.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool. Very cool. What's your ideal class setting? Describe it in like 2 to 3 words.
Students who engage. So students
terrific.
that are like focused, they're actually like they want to be there and stuff, because some of like the businesses I do, they're required to have it and stuff. So every once in a while, there'll be someone who's, scrolling on their phone and all that. And those just create some obstacles. So I really do always appreciate students who engage.
Awesome. Now, you have multiple things going on every day. And after a long day's work, how do you unwind?
I will, I'll try and meditate some. I will work out. I like being out in nature, so I'll take walks and stuff. I like the sunset.
Terrific. Alex, you've been a wonderful guest.
Thanks
and
for
you
having me.
passed the test. You did wonderfully. Thanks for
Thanks.
thanks for coming here, and we really loved having you and look forward to having many such conversations with you.
Sounds good.
Great
Sounds
going,
good.
and good luck to More Life CPR.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah.
I appreciate the opportunity.
Yeah. Pleasure.
Engage.
Awesome. Now, you have multiple things going on every day, and after a long day's work, how do you unwind?
I will, I'll try and meditate some. I will work out. I like being out in nature, so I'll take walks and stuff. I like the sunset.
Terrific. Alex, you've been a wonderful guest.
Thanks
and
for
you
having me.
passed the test. You did wonderfully. Thanks
Thanks.
Thanks for coming here, and we really loved having you and look forward to having many such conversations with you.
Sounds good.
Great
Sounds
going,
good.
and good luck to More Life CPR.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah.
I appreciate the opportunity.
Yeah. Pleasure. Hey guys, I hope you really liked the video, and if you did, please like, subscribe, and comment. And we would like to reach many more small business owners. I would really appreciate if you can share the video with them as well. Thank you, and see you until next time. Have a great one.